Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Self Show. I'm Dee.
And I'm Max.
Welcome.
Looks a little different, huh?
It does. And I like it.
Yeah.
I do.
Still got some work to do.
But, yeah. A little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in a new space. Transition. It's coming together.
It's coming together.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy. Well, I'm very happy because I don't have to wait on you to get dressed and all this stuff. Spend on your makeup and.
No, like today, I was waiting on you.
Man, we're never gonna get there.
I was ready to go.
Because I had to set up. The setup is always the hardest part. That's since the studio. But now that we have our home studio, we haven't done a test. So this is like literally our test. So let's just hope everything records and works. But anyways, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to get into the conversation today because we were actually talking. I was actually telling you about a podcast that I heard, and they were talking about compatibility versus chemistry in relationships. And it was two young ladies, and I didn't quite agree with them, right? Because they were like, chemistry is like the spark, and then it's not fair. I only listened to like 10 minutes. But for the most part, it was just like they were like heavy on compatibility, and I came home and I was kind of telling you about it, and I'm like,
You're like, you don't need compatibility.
And then
chemistry.
I didn't say that, but it seemed like you agreed with them on compatibility, like the whole compatibility thing. Yeah, and I was just like taken aback because I'm like, how do we last this long?
Compatibility.
Chemistry.
Both.
I guess.
Okay, so tell me what you think chemistry is.
I think you should go first. So you can explain to me. Because remember I told you, I was like, you know what? I don't want to hear right now. Let's
No, but remember, so you brought the conversation to me.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing. So bring the conversation to me.
Okay. So in a nutshell, because we're going to unpack this, right? But in a nutshell, I feel the chemistry is from the spark to the explosion. Okay? Because I think of it as a fire, right? When you start a fire, there's friction. But the thing is, for you to stay warm, you have to maintain the fire.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like that's the game that we have to play within our relationship, is keeping the fire going and eventually throwing more shit into the fire to keep it going.
Keep it burning.
Keep it burning.
And then you mentioned compatibility. Why you think compatibility is not, I guess, as important?
I feel that compatibility just really boils down to one question, is what am I willing to accommodate? And I think that's heavily predicated on the chemistry that you have, right?
Chemistry is what will draw you and the person together in the beginning. Okay. Compatibility is what comes after.
And I disagree. I feel like the compatibility question should come after chemistry.
Yes, that's what I just said. Chemistry is, like how you said, chemistry is, the spark, the initial attraction, right? And you want to keep that because you want to keep the fire and the spice and all of that going, right? Okay. But compatibility to me is what makes you go the distance. It'll determine how far you go.
When I hear, especially women, when they talk about, compatibility, it's like, oh, he has to be making this amount.
That's not compatibility.
He has to be no kids. It's this laundry list of stuff.
That's not, you're confusing. It's not the same.
How's it not the same?
It's not the same thing.
When this is the conversation.
That's just, it's like you having a list of preference or desire. I think compatibility goes
Okay, so
deeper
give me
than that.
give me an example of compatibility,
An
man.
example of compatibility would be, we can talk lifestyle,
Okay.
core beliefs, like what would make up the family foundation or the unit. So like how you said kids,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big thing. So you and I can have great chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're saying you don't want children and I want children,
Mm-hmm.
right? If that is something that is just so deep ingrained in you, it's like one of your thing that you just won't budge on, and it's something that I won't budge on, we're not compatible.
And
because later on,
mm-hmm.
we can go off this chemistry, but at some point we're gonna have to make a decision as far as children goes.
Right. So I agree with that. However, I wasn't talking about that. I was just talking about previous kids. Like someone having
No. So, and that's why I'm saying you're getting it confused. Like I could have a whole laundry list. Yes, I want you to be tall. I want you to be whatever shade and body built and all the other stuff. But I think compatibility goes deeper than that. That's all surface stuff. That's not what I'm thinking when I hear compatibility. It's what's the things, how the two life are gonna mesh together to go the distance.
I agree.
Because you can have people who are compatible, they'll go the distance, and after a while, the sparks fade. They're probably like just homies, but they're still compatible, like they're making the relationship work.
But does it
But-
really fit? Okay.
But it makes the relationship work.
So compatibility makes the relationship work with when there's an absence of spark. That's what you're telling me. When there's an absence of chemistry.
I'm just saying you can have a relationship that will go the distance on compatibility.
I don't agree because you're not happy.
But people do it all the time. Well, I'm just showing. I'm not saying that's ideal or that's what I desire. I'm just saying that happens where you have individuals.
Yeah,
who are
I'm speaking of, in my opinion, a successful relationship. I cannot see myself in a long-term relationship if there's no chemistry.
That's you, but some people do.
Yes, but
what I was saying.
I think that's where you start getting the feeling of being trapped, right? Or it's just inconvenient to have a divorce. Okay, but imagine being in a relationship 5 years, no sex, right? And I'm saying sex because that's important to me, right?
Who says that it has to be no sex because you don't have a spark?
Ma'am, chemistry goes all the way down. And okay, my question.
Okay.
Us having sex. Mm-hmm. Do you rather sex in year 1 or sex in year 13?
Year 13.
Why? And you better not hit me with no bullshit about compatibility. Okay?
It's not chemistry.
Ma'am?
It's not just chemistry.
It is chemistry. Okay.
It's not just chemistry.
Okay. Give me your point and then I'll give you my opinion. So in
this moment, that question, it doesn't have to deal with, for me, compatibility. Chemistry is there.
Yeah, but that's something that we had to work at.
Building intimacy, yes.
Okay. With your permission.
But let me tell you, our intimacy level in year 13 versus year 1 is what makes the difference.
Understood. Mm-hmm. Permission, can I go deeper?
Okay.
I remember it was just bunny rabbit. Bang, bang, bang. I remember. It was bang, 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 bang. Okay.
I was already.
However, there was a point, right, where, because I remember I was kind of selfish, because I remember I used to like roll up and be like, baby, this is for me. If you don't get it in 5 minutes, that's on you, right? But I remember you like, hi, like, I want to come too. Like, I want to come. And I'm like, okay. Why are you blushing? No, but you want to come too. So I'm like, okay. So you remember there were even some times where, you know, I would just explore. Like it wasn't even like just straight on sex. Remember there were times that I touched you, I, you know, just play around with your body. And in those moments, that's where I found certain hot spots for you and certain, okay. And then boom, you got hot and ready. And yes, it did end up turning into us having sex. But even in that, I had to be present and see how you react to certain things. That's why in year 13, where I just just fast forward, I have a bag. You understand? Like I have my bag. So if you're like, hun, I can't sleep, and for me, I'm probably not quite there yet. Instead of denying you, I know my greatest hits. You understand? I know my greatest hits. I just boom, 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 boom. And then you're happy and you go to sleep. You understand? And I feel like that was built off of chemistry and me wanting to know you, me wanting to understand you on a intimate and on a sexual level. And I believe that this also bleeds into, you know, me wanting to know you on a more emotional level and me on a spiritual level. You feel like you look like you want to say something.
Okay, so then I have a question for you then. Now, if we have this great chemistry, right? But let's say when it comes down to sex, and if my belief around sex was, or how I feel about it, if I say I don't think sex is important in a relationship at all, don't care for it, and if I don't feel like I want to do, I'm just not going to do it.
Because you haven't met Daddy
And
Max yet.
And it's like, once a month, I'm good. We're done. And I'm like, I don't think we need to do it more than that. And you're like, I don't agree.
And that's selfish. I do believe that's selfish. And let me tell you why. Because
so even if you say that is based on selfish or not selfish, ultimately what I'm saying is there are core things in a relationship, marriage, whatever, that has to align. And we're talking even as far as what is your future outlook on the relationship, right? If you have a direction that you see for your family, and I'm like,
okay, can I cut you off? I totally understand that. But I'm speaking from experience.
That's compatibility.
I'm speaking from my experience. Because when I first met you, I did not have expectations of marriage. Okay? And we didn't have the traditional boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. However, just in talking, and this wasn't even like preparing our future type of thing, I understood the kind of what was your expectations with someone that you wanted to build a life with? That's marriage. Okay? Now, based off on our chemistry, and it was amazing for me, the question came, am I willing to accommodate? Because listen, I remember my mom was like, oh, I want grandchildren. I'm like, Mom, I can give you grandchildren without a wife.
Right. But what you were doing right there, you were assessing if we were compatible to go the distance.
No,
chemistry was great. Yes,
I was
you may not want to call it that, but that's what you were doing.
I was assessing. I was reassessing my belief, but based on the chemistry that we were having, and I was like, you know what? I think I can do this long term, right? But that was based on the chemistry to where I came up with that conclusion. Right?
So that's in your case, right? But for some, yes, we can have a wonderful chemistry, but that is not it's not for that person, it's not enough. Or she said the chemistry does not determine if I decide to move some of those, I guess you'll say those pillars.
Okay, so I do believe that there are some hard stops. So one of the things you're talking about, like kids and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understood. However, I believe that what chemistry taps into, it taps into you wanting to know the person better, get to know the person better, get to understand the person better. And there's a selflessness there when chemistry, at least for me, when chemistry is in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
When you're thinking of compatibility is me, and I. And ultimately, I feel like a person can end up shortchanging themselves on potential happiness, like complete happiness, because there's just one or two things that you just can't get past. Now I get the whole thing, the family building. Like I would say,
it goes so much. You talking your values. Like if our values are like complete opposite, it will not coming together.
But that's what I'm saying. If it's complete opposite, I don't feel like there would be a chemistry there anyways.
Yes, it would, because the initial is from
attraction.
It starts with attraction. Yes. You will not know my values just by looking at me.
Understood.
You can be attracted to me in a brief conversation.
But probably
you feel this tension, this
I get
energy.
It, but probably by date 3, date 4, you you know what the deal is. Like, you know what it is.
And then what happens?
That's it.
Right. So the chemistry was not enough, right? When you realize it's not compatible.
But I'm not.
You stop.
Yes. And you chose not to deal with that person anymore.
Yeah. But that's the choice to then say, okay, it doesn't make any sense to go any further.
So I feel like we're kind of moving the goalposts here. Because hear this. I'm talking like in a relationship.
But if we're in a full-blown relationship, those conversations should have already happened. You would already have an idea of whether or not we're compatible.
And that's what you're saying. What am I willing to accommodate? Right? And then this is the thing, because too, your compatibility is going to change, because you at 18 is not the same, will not be the same person at 25, will not be the same person at 30, will not be the same person at 40. So your compatibility is going to change. And what is going to keep that is your chemistry. That's why I feel like when you hear some people that have divorces, they're like, and it's irreconcilable, right? Oh, what's the issue? Nothing.
I think what it is maybe our personal definition of what compatibility is. And what chemistry is.
I can probably agree with that.
I think that's what it is.
I can probably agree with that.
Yeah.
Because, because I think chemistry can get you to the place to be like, I didn't consider this before. However, like I really dig this person, and I'm willing to accommodate this. And like I've heard this so many, like I've heard so many stories. You know what I'm saying? Even with my homeboys. You understand? Like, nah, man, I ain't getting married. Or nah, man, I ain't doing this. And they whole daddies out here now. You know what I'm saying? And whole husbands out here. Because that the right one came along, and it was like, I don't think I want to lose this.
Because you know what? They may not know themselves well enough, but somewhere subconsciously, he was open to marriage. It just didn't meet the right one. It's a lot of things we say with our mouth, but it all comes down to the subconscious level.
I don't believe that because
Okay.
I was adamant on not getting.
All right.
I was adamant on not getting.
How
married
long did it take you to change your mind?
Because you know what, I met the right one. I met the right one, and from my, I'm not even gonna get into that, but yeah, I met the right one.
So why wasn't it that you met the right one
Mm-hmm.
and we could just be in a relationship? We can common law marriage. We didn't have to go through the whole process.
Because that's not that. I wouldn't have been able to maintain you because that's not what you wanted. So I had to get to a place where I'm like, you know what? Let me entertain it. Let me entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember, I said it in my own G way. I'm like, you know, you got a face I could wake up through every morning.
Like you really.
It's
said
like
that,
I was fighting with my pride because I'm like, yo, like, you remember?
You did say that.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, you got a face I could wake up to every morning. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, like it. It was
That's like
it was
decode you.
yeah, it was no romance. It was no romance because I was like fighting with myself, like just fighting. I was fighting with myself in in that moment. But seriously though, because hear this out. Okay, so when we first met, we met at my church, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were complete butt to me.
I was not.
And it was weird because you got offended because I asked you what high school you went to.
And I was a whole college freshman, okay?
Now most women would be flattered, like, oh my God, I look, oh my, but
Immature. I
like,
was young.
but you were like, excuse me, and then
Yeah.
it was like attitude. It was attitude from there, right? Then I guess I don't want to say the turning point because I wasn't a turning point as yet because I was in charge of the youths and the young adults. Mm-hmm. So every Monday I would send out some inspirational stuff. We end up getting your well, my dad had me get your number and stuff like that, and I just sent it out. Mm-hmm. Sent it out to you by mistake because my dad was supposed to reach out to you instead of me because it wasn't there.
It wasn't a good interaction.
And then you text me back. You was like, who is this, please? You had so much manners in that text. You was just like very sweet. And I was like, oh man. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to text you. It's a group text, whatever. He's like, oh, okay, it's fine. How are you? And that was like, because I remember I was working at the time. I was like 10:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And we texted until like 12:01 in the morning, right? And then the reason why I texted you back when I was leaving for work, which was after 6, crazy, I remember all of this, right? Is because I fell asleep on you when we were texting, and then I reached out like, hey, sorry, I fell asleep, whatever, how you doing? And then it just went there again.
Yeah.
Now look at that. That whole accountability. Oh my God, it's not accountability. Give me the word again.
Accommodation.
That whole accommodation. You almost missed out on your Prince Charming. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being real, bringing it back. The thing is it's our chemistry, even just in conversation.
Yeah.
And then what was crazy? There was no flirting. There was no.
That's the thing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. There was no flirting. There was nothing like that. We were just talking. And then, and then I guess we ended up, you thought I was upset.
I didn't want you to misunderstand what I was saying.
Yeah. So you thought I was upset. So you called. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. And then that was crazy. We just stayed on the phone. A phone call that was supposed to last about 30 seconds just for clarification. Just kept going. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I said, I was like, hey, you like pancakes? because I had a thing about eating by myself. Mm-hmm. Because I always felt like people were like always looking at me, right? And you were like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, well, I'm going to IHOP after this or whatnot. Come with me. You're like, all right, cool. Okay. And again, like we went there, like there was no flirting. There was like we went there like as friends, like yo, she's mad cool, whatever. And then that's when you had me. Then you wanted to look at a movie. You was like, oh, a movie, Exorcist or something like that. It was a horror movie that was coming out, and I was like, that movie's not out.
I was like, yes, it is.
I was like, the movie's not out because I wanted to see it. I'm like, it's not out. You were like, well, yes, it is. I'm like, it's not out. So you were like, well, I'm gonna go to the movie, you know, whatever. And I was like, he's like, well, I'm paying for it or something like that. You said something like that. I'm like, shit, okay, well.
Yeah, because it wasn't no. I'm like, without you or without you, I'm gonna go see it anyway, and I was gonna pay for myself. So
yeah, so you got it. You paid for me. Went in.
The movie,
and I was right. The movie was not there. And then you were like, "Oh, well, since we're here,
well, this looked funny.
This look." I had to look at Kick Ass. Oh my gosh! And then I was so bored because this is late now. This is probably like 10, 11, right?
Yeah.
It's like late now, and freaking. Remember, I started like jumping over the. Because it was only us in the theaters, and I started jumping over the seats.
You tripped.
Oh, and I hit my balls because my foot got trapped in between.
I was like, if you kept your ass quiet.
So that like yeah. So that happened, and like and so then after that, dropped you back home, and we stayed in the car. And just talking. So like it just got to the point. It just got to the point that because when I'm coming back, when I'm going home from work, like your house was on the way, and then it was just like, hey, you home? Yeah. And I didn't even come inside. Like literally, like you came out to the car, and we would just talk. And like that was like I was like, I loved it. Chemistry did that. And then chemistry ended up making you, what's the word? Attracted or interested in me in that way. And like I said, we didn't have the boy because we didn't call each other boyfriend, girlfriend, nothing like that.
Because we were just vibing.
We just understood the change, and it was just like
we felt the shift. We just acknowledged like, okay.
and just kept it as as that. And then what was that? Yeah, and then just the natural relationship questions just started coming up. As far as because I remember we weren't talking about kids, but something about the kids came up, and you were like, I'm not having kids if it's not my husband, something like that. And I'm not, like, there were just certain things that you just wasn't entertaining if it wasn't your husband. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But again, I'm not. But then when it got different, and the thing is too, it wasn't a thing of like, oh, because you took up all my time. Like there were other individuals giving me attention, but it was just, again, I feel like, and I think that's why I'm just so adamant on that. And that's my belief, because it was that moment, like me meeting you, and I'm like, you know what, like this feels good.
Yeah.
This feels good. This feels right. And what can I do to maintain this? What can I do to accommodate this? And that's when I started making different moves and just kind of trying to see like where you were with things. And, once I got the okay, like it was on. It was on from there. However, even in the marriage, when there were times when where I focused on the business in replacing you, if I'm being honest, or focused on me because of my pride and how I wanted other people to see me as instead of you, the relationship did fizzle, right? There was a point where you're like, yo, I'm not happy. Like, I don't know if I want to continue this. And it's not until I put in the work, well, we put in the work, right? Collectively, but from my end, it's not until when I put in the work to understand you better, to go beyond what you like and what you don't like, but what makes you tick, right? And once I started understanding that and getting to know you in that way, and you can cut me off, the relationship started expanding, right? And even when all hell had broke loose in our relationship, we still had something to hold on to when that was shaky. And when we came back, what saved us is, you know what? Maybe there's something that I did that I need to do better to understand you. And we both said that to each other. And we've gotten to a place where we've both said like, damn, this is the happiest we've ever been. Like being our 100% self.
Yeah.
And that is that goes way beyond a checklist, right? Chemistry is the work. I think of it as, I'm gonna go back to it again. It's a fire. You know, the spark starts with friction, with the attraction. And when it starts, it only starts off as a little flame, but you have to put like dry leaves. You have to put shit in it to keep it going.
Yeah.
You have to blow. You have to give it oxygen. You have to give it air to have the fire, keep the fire going. But if you get to a point where you don't do that anymore, you're not breathing into the relationship anymore, you're not putting things into it anymore, the fire is going to fizzle, and then your relationship is going to fizzle. And just going on, and then just relying on compatibility. If that's the case, get your roommate and live the Golden Girls life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, just like get your roommate. But if you want someone that you can experience, like, and that's what chemistry is for me. It's an experience. You can experience that someone on a spiritual, an emotional, a sexual, a physical level. You know, like that's what it is for me. And I think that the checklist is only a question of what am I willing to accommodate when you're ready to take a relationship to the next level.
Okay.
Did I win?
I don't know if I win.
And guys, that is how you win an argument.
It was no argument.
No, I'm playing. I'm being.
But I get it. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
I think, again, that was beautiful, by the way. I just think I think we had different definition of what it was.
All right.
But I agree. Chemistry is very important.
Thank you.
So is compatibility.
But chemistry to the forefront. So yeah, so now that we've established that I was right.
Okay.
Yes, that's chemistry right there. Because you know that your hubby have a pride to himself, and you're like, you know what? I let him feel like he won this one. That's chemistry right there. You found that about me. You like, you know me. You see me. You see me. I feel heard. I felt heard in that moment.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, guys, please let us know. Like, what do you think is more important? Chemistry, compatibility? I don't think it's a versus. I think it's chemistry and compatibility. You know, I guess we're trying to determine which one is more important than the other and which one carries you the distance. But if you agree or disagree, please leave a comment. We would like to hear from you. Anything you want to add?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So you can let us out.
All right. Well, thanks for rocking with us this far. Again, I'm Dee. This is Max, the Self Show. And we'll catch y'all again next week.
Peace.